Hello everyone, welcome to an update. I don't do a lot of these on the channel, but look, we're getting to like halfway through 2025 at this point. I feel like I wanted to get in front of the camera and chat to you about plans, about what is going on in terms of stuff I'm making on the channel. Because yet again, it's been a few months since my last upload, which was the best of 2024 video I put out very late at the end of February, but a video that I put a lot of time into and that I personally think is one of the most creative and fun videos I put on the channel. So firstly, thanks to everyone for watching that. Lots of lovely words and comments on that video. If you haven't seen it and don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description or popping up somewhere on the screen right now. I did a film noir, I'll call it a short film. I don't know if I should call it a short film, but there's a short film in that video about discovering the best film of 2024. I loved doing that video. I put a lot of work into it, and I think that sort of process of doing that at the beginning of the year was definitely a clicking for me, I think, in terms of what I want to do with the channel and how I want to go about making things. You will have noticed I'm not doing as many film reviews as I used to do. This used to be a channel where I would go and see new releases, I go to press screenings and whatnot, and I'd come back and I'd talk about that film, hopefully around its release on the channel for you guys, rinse and repeat, you know, like a lot of other channels do very successfully on YouTube. But, and I've spoken about this before on the channel, I found that very stale, I found that very boring. As of last year, I really decided to actively kind of stop doing that, I think, just because I think when it comes to film discussion online and a kind of the game of film discussion, I suppose, you know, going to these press screenings, getting early access, getting your thoughts out in time for the release, trying to have something to say, but mainly, I guess, mostly trying to be the loudest person saying something. I find that all quite, firstly, exhausting, secondly, very repetitive, and thirdly, just not very creatively nourishing, right? And I think I was sort of losing track of why I even had a channel to begin with. My channel's small, right? I don't have a huge following. I've been at this for quite a while. I am not very good at playing the YouTube game when it comes to delivering consistent, reliable content for an audience, right? That's why I go through these patches where I don't put anything up. And my channel, I love the audience I've got. I love you guys that watch the stuff I put out, but I don't do this to get a big audience, if that makes much sense. It's never really been my MO. And I suppose that's why I've never really enjoyed or never really felt like I needed to play that game as much as I have seen others play the game. But the reason I started a channel in the first place was to have a creative output, right? To be able to play around with the camera. I've just got a new camera, which is fun, which is, I think, again, why I felt like I've had more of an incentive recently to get up and make some stuff, which I am doing at the moment. But yeah, it's a reason for me to have fun and make things and get creative in my spare time. And I realized that what is the point in making videos that I'm not having fun making and that I don't feel like have some kind of value, whether it's creatively speaking in terms of how they're made and how they're presented, which is for me the real fun of creating stuff on YouTube, or whether it's kind of intellectually adding things to discussion. I think a lot of reviews in the YouTube film space, and I'm not, you know, calling out people for anything. I know a lot of people, I have a lot of friends in the space that do great work and that are very good at this, but I do feel like overall it's such a saturated market on YouTube. It is a lot of noise, it's a lot of people saying the same stuff, and it doesn't always feel like when I sit and watch a review from someone that I'm actually getting much from it, that I feel like I got much more than just whether or not they liked it or didn't. So the content that I've been making over the last year on the channel, I've been actively trying to make sure that I'm not just making content for the sake of making content, that everything I'm making has a reason or a purpose to exist, I suppose, and that I feel like is either saying something or saying something in an interesting and unique way, because that's what I want to do here. And hopefully I would like to think that you guys have noticed that and would agree with me that the videos I've been putting out do feel like that. You know, whether or not it's some of the video essays I did last year or going to Venice Film Festival, that was a real creatively fun thing to do and a different way, I think, for myself to tackle festival coverage differently to how I used to do it, and usually do it with the London Film Festival and with other places I've been. Yeah, that was a real kind of creative, not challenge, although it was a little bit challenging in many ways, but I think it was like a fun creative task, I suppose. How do you go to a festival and do it in a different way, which isn't just sitting in front of the same camera in the same space, delivering thoughts on films, because it gets very repetitive very quickly, I find. And coming into 2025, I went into another sort of creative lull. I find myself much more aware of these creative lulls, I suppose, and like periods of really feeling like I do still have ideas but just don't have the drive to do it. And part of that is because I work full-time in video production, as some of you might know. It's very difficult to want to get up and make things in front of the camera when your 9-to-5 job through the week is editing and creating things with the camera and all of that stuff. It's in many ways just a sort of extension of the work hours in the day, and I'm very much a person that likes to keep work and life as separate as I can, because otherwise I just go a little bit crazy in the head. I'm sure you'll all appreciate that. So there's that angle. There's also just life being busy. It's been a very challenging first half of the year for reasons I'm not going to go into. It was a very challenging year last year for reasons I have gone into on the channel, with my dad passing away and lots of things to do with that. So I think the last year and over a year for me on the channel creatively has been a tricky balancing act, I suppose, of trying to find places and ways to create stuff and make stuff that I feel like is worth making, but that also doesn't destroy me and burn me out creatively at the same time, right? So coming into 2025, I should say the second half of 2025 here, because it's June at this point, or about to be June, depending on when this video goes up. I really want to push myself to try and make more videos somewhat consistently, and I'm not sitting here saying I'm now about to do a weekly video schedule, because I will be honest with you guys, I know I will not be able to keep that up. I just don't have it in me to do that. I've tried it before, and I think as soon as I put something on myself in terms of a time scale, in terms of a schedule that's consistent and regular, I do just either A, get scared of making videos, as you do, or B, end up just making stuff that feels half-assed because I'm trying to get stuff out for you. So this is not me saying I am sticking to a weekly or fortnightly or monthly schedule, but it is me sort of letting you guys know that I do want to give you consistent stuff, and I don't know what that exactly looks like. But I don't want to do it in a way which is just, this is my schedule and deadline and I'm sticking to that. I want to do it in a way which is just making sure I'm consistently coming up with interesting ideas and getting them made. And whether that means sometimes perhaps weekly content, or sometimes every few weeks, or sometimes when I'm working on bigger things every month, I want to at least push myself to be fairly consistent and not let it go over a month. So this video, as much as an update for you guys, is acting sort of as a bit of a kick in the ass for myself to sort of make sure I do it. On that note, in that sense, I wanted to let you guys know some of the things I'm going to be doing on the channel that are just a continuation, really, I suppose, of how I have been approaching the channel and the videos I make over the last year. And the big one of those is that, yeah, I have not done as many new release reviews. I haven't really done any, to be honest, over the last year. And the new releases that have come out in the year, the way I've talked about them, I've been very conscious about trying to talk about them in a way which just doesn't feel like a review for that new release. And the reason is exactly what I've said already. I am very conscious of the noise that's created around new releases. And I'm not a fan of the game that you play with film marketing and PR, where they invite you to a press screening, you get there early, you get to see the film early, and then you get your review up and you just sort of bash it out to get it up nice and quickly, and you want to be seen. And I think in this YouTube film reviewing space, it's much more about, or has become much more about, getting your thoughts out as quickly as you can, rather than actually really watching and pulling apart a film and talking about the things that interest you in a film. And I suppose off the back of that, really, that's led me to wanting to talk a lot more about older films and kind of moving my perspective and my focus onto older films, because actually, having taken a step back from the kind of press screening cycle of seeing films, talking about them, rinse and repeat, right, for new releases, I've actually firstly really enjoyed just going to see films in the cinema when they're out on my own pace, but secondly, that's given me a lot more time to enjoy older films in a weird way. Like, I always have watched older films, but I think I've sort of, for whatever reason, just found myself watching a lot more older ones, a lot more older, weird, hidden films that were not on my radar at all. And wanting to talk about those, right? They've been really energizing for me and really exciting, I think, in terms of having things to say about. I think newer releases, I feel like there's a pressure to have something new to say about those, at least in my mind, to stand out from the pack. Whereas older films, I feel like for some reason, for some psychological subconscious reason, it is easier in my mind to think broadly and broader, I suppose, about those films and just kind of let your thoughts take you wherever they need to go, and then in that pull out interesting things to say about them and exciting things to say about them. And so I really want to, I'm going to, the plan is to start talking a lot more about older films in a way which is sort of half recommending films that you might not have heard of for you guys, because I hadn't heard about them, and half kind of pulling those films apart and sort of reviewing them, yes, but in very specific ways that kind of feel like a bit of a mixture of video essay plus recommendation plus review for you guys. I don't know exactly what those videos are going to look like, but I have started building them and writing them and conceptualizing a few of those, and that really excites me. I think that's a really exciting lane to be going down for me. I think it's something that's taking a long time to click for me, because I've always had a sort of subconscious pressure when it comes to talking about new releases, in that I feel like there isn't, firstly, that this is a completely made up thing in my head, but it feels like there's a time pressure on a lot of new reviews, and I've always felt like if I can't get a video out about a film that has just come out in cinemas within a week or 2 weeks, it feels like it's sort of on to the next one. There's always another release to talk about, especially when it comes to press screenings, right? You miss one, you almost feel like you don't have time to talk about that film because you're already at another press screening and you've got to talk about the next film, especially heightened when you have to do this around full-time work, right? But I've always found it difficult, even though I know that it's okay, you can just get up and talk about a film whenever you want to get up and talk about a film. Obviously that's the case. I watch videos from people talking about films much later on than other people have, and I've realized that I'm much more, as a viewer, able to just enjoy that when people take the time to actually come up with interesting thoughts and interesting threads on films. So that's sort of what's happened to me, I suppose, in taking a step back from just talking about new releases and just reviewing films overall and pivoting to those more kind of like video essay side of things, but also I suppose just general creative discussion videos. I've taken a step back from the kind of more regimented time pressure, time sensitive side of things that was going on in my head, and that's sort of in a weird way liberated me, I suppose, to feel like I could just make videos about whatever I want to make them about, whenever I want to make them about. And actually, yeah, the other side of that is older films. I want to start doing fairly regular videos that are just deep dives, I suppose. As I said, half deep dives, half video essays, half recommendation videos on specific films that I'd never heard about, that I don't think you guys may have heard about. And I just want to have fun with those and make some really creative and interesting and engaging videos about those. Call it a series if you want. I don't want to call it a series or label it a series because I don't want it to feel repetitive, and I just don't like that. I think it's easy to want to do series of videos on YouTube, but it's still just a part of the kind of growing variety of stuff I want to be making on the channel. But you could call them a series if you want, and they will be primarily based off of the prompt, why did no one tell me about, right? because these are films that I kind of wish I'd been told about sooner, and that I think people should be told about sooner as big staples of cinema that just aren't really outside of cult followings or sort of, you know, hidden gem niches in the cinema world. So yeah, I've got a few scripted about some fantastic films that I've absolutely loved watching, and that's really rejuvenated me, I think, when it comes to creative spark, but also a drive to want to make stuff for you guys, because I'm very conscious that I go large chunks of time without making anything. So I would love some recommendations from you guys for films that you genuinely don't think I will have seen, or that you genuinely believe do not get talked about much. Often people ask for hidden gems and talk about hidden gems online, and I feel like they kind of are and aren't really hidden gems. Like, they're just indie films that maybe seem obscure and hidden, but actually are being watched by a lot of people. So I'm interested in films that I truly did not know existed, and that a lot of people, I suppose, hopefully didn't know exist. If you know any films like that, is there anything that jumps out in your mind that you'd like me to watch and hopefully talk about? I'll only talk about them if I feel like I've got something good or interesting to say, or if they excite me, or if they feel like worth recommending. But if there are any films like that, I'd love you to put them in the comments and just let me know, not just in the comments of this video, but just broadly on my Instagram or on other YouTube videos, wherever you want to let me know. Please do let me know recommendations. I'm always up for watching older films and seeing what ideas can jog from those when it comes to making videos for you guys. So that's the other side of things. What else have I got? I wrote some notes down on a little yellow book. I think I've pretty much got through most of it. Oh, the other thing is I want to put up the short film that was within my best of 2024 video from February up as its own thing, right? The film noir I did in there about trying to discover the best film of the year. I was supposed to back in March, and it's been an idea in a pipeline that just never got done because of time. But I want to get that up as its own thing, because I made it so that it does stand as its own thing without the interjections of myself recommending films. Part of me wonders if I should have always just done it as its own thing, but hey, that's how it was made and that's how I did it. But I did make it so that I could put it up as its own thing. So I've got some tweaks I want to make to it just to make it flow a bit better as its own thing. And I might film some additional bits in there and sort of tweak some of the edit to make it flow a bit better and flesh it out a bit and feel a bit more worthwhile. We'll see. But that is coming on the channel at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. I just need to get the time in to do that. I'm about to go away to Barcelona for a bit. So time's about to get a bit tight. Yeah, I'm very excited. I think there's lots of stuff to be excited about when it comes to videos I might be putting out on the channel. And thank you very much for sticking around so far. I know it's not particularly fun to watch people on YouTube and then have them disappear for ages and come back whenever they want, but hey ho, that's just how this party goes, right? And I'm very grateful for you all for being very patient and very receiving of the stuff that I do put out, and it doesn't go amiss. And I hope that you are able to stick with me for whatever I end up putting out on the channel. That's it. I think that's everything. I don't have anything else to say.